Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This was from user Snowmuffins 9396. Kelly's story starts almost at the beginning. My younger sister Kelly has always had an attitude. She was the youngest of 3 children. If Kelly didn't want to do something, wear something, or eat something, she'd start with waterworks. Our poor mother could only take so much. One day, just as I'm walking in the door after school, I find my mother chasing Kelly around the dining room table. I don't even know what they were arguing about, but I was firmly on my mom's side. After watching for a few minutes, Kelly threw something small at my mother. My mother had incredible patience, but this act just tipped the scales. She started threatening and yelling, but Kelly just ignored her as usual. In a moment of utter exhaustion, my mother slammed her drinking cup on the table. It was one of those hard plastic tumblers and it broke, sending a few shards of plastic flying. Of course, one of those shards hit Kelly in the head. I know head wounds can bleed profusely, but this one just kind of oozed. My mother and grandmother tried for what felt like forever, mostly because Kelly screamed like a banshee to get the bleeding to stop. Finally, Mom said they should just go to the emergency room. Kelly almost immediately stopped crying because she was getting more attention. Grandma wasn't sure they needed to go to the ER, and 2, they might report this as abuse. You never know what Kelly might say, my mother said. Well, if they report me, I'll just have to live with that. And Kelly, that means they'll take you away. Kelly smiled and said, well, maybe my new family will take me to McDonald's when I want to go. Off they went, both returning about 2 hours later. No McDonald's and Kelly with one single stitch in her head. Turns out, before I walked in, Kelly had demanded to go to McDonald's. My mom told her she didn't have enough money for everyone, and Kelly dumped her entire purse out searching for cash. Gutsy move for an 8-year-old. My older brother Kyle and I would often joke with each other that Mom was probably mad that they made her bring Kelly home from the hospital that day. So that's Kelly, OP's sister. This isn't the only story, but this is the beginning, like the origin story we have about Kelly. What do you think about her so far? Pretty entitled for an 8-year-old, right? Well, the rest of her life doesn't get any better, only worse. We'll find out. Now it's a good time to tell you that this video is only going to be about Kelly. The next story we have, which is a little bit longer, is also about Kelly, but in a few more years when she's older. OP has a few other stories about Kelly, so if you like this video, let me know in the comment section if you'd like me to read more of these stories. Now let's continue with another Kelly story from the same user. My sister stole my car, UPDAT Part 1. Kelly lives an entitled life and expects me to pay for it. My sister Kelly feels that I owe her, and this story is one of the last times she tried it. This happened quite a while ago, but it still makes me mad. Kelly is horrible with money. She has no savings and horrible credit. She was in her 20s and still couldn't get a car loan by herself, not without a sizable deposit and a cosigner. So, she convinced my dad to be her co-signer on a crappy car to get her to work. Our dad lived in another state and really just wanted to help her. She was very excited to get her car and show off a car that many 16-year-olds wouldn't want. It was a beater car that she overpaid for, and the interest rate was 28%. I'm not kidding. About 5 months later, the entire electrical system on the car shuts down. Kelly calls our dad in Kentucky and he asks, what am I supposed to do? I live almost 500 miles away. She throws a tantrum. She's perfected her execution and says to call me. Now I've been put in similar situations before and tell Kelly that I will arrange to have her car towed to a mechanic or dealership, whichever she preferred. But I am not paying for anything, not the towing, not the repairs. She's still responsible for keeping up her insurance and paying her loan every month. You know, adulting. She promises, so the car gets towed to the shop. Repairs are underway, and Kelly is suspiciously keeping me informed about the car. Meanwhile, Kelly is borrowing one of our cars, a late-model large sedan, and my family and I go on a planned vacation to San Francisco for a week. While we're in California, Kelly calls to tell me her car is ready. I tell her, "That's great, and be sure to test drive before you leave. Ask about warranties, etc. You can leave our car at our house, and we can get the key when we get home in a few days." When we get home from vacation, the car is in the driveway. The back seat is completely filled with a myriad of fast food trash. But we have it back, and I can clean it up. Not too bad, just a lot of time. I cleaned everything, completely detailed the car, and we were getting ready to sell it. About 2 weeks later, on a Saturday night, I get a frantic call from Kelly. "Oh my God, my car caught on fire." I said, "What?" She screams at me, "My effing car is on fire." I asked her if she called 911, and she screams, "Yes, the fire department is here now." I tell her it sounds like everything is under control, and I'll talk to her in the morning. It was after 1 a.m. The following morning, we find that our car is missing. I called Kelly and asked about it, and she said she needed the car more than we do. She made a friend drive her over to pick up her car. I informed her that in no way was that her car, and until insurance has arranged a rental for her, she can still borrow our car. I know I have doormat printed on my face almost. 2 weeks later, and I still don't have my car back. What's more troubling is that I haven't heard from Kelly for several days. Then, on the following Monday, my phone starts to ring. I'm getting calls from her landlord, her job, and the loan company. My sister totally screwed me over. Let's start with her job. Kelly worked at a restaurant, and the prior Friday night, she never took the deposit to the bank. She left with a few $1,000s, and I was her emergency contact for work. Now on to the landlord. Kelly rented a room in a very nice home in a nice neighborhood for an unbelievable price. He was calling because she left a note on her door that she was leaving town for a while. She hadn't paid rent for over 2 months, left the burnt shell of a car in front of his house, and in the 6 months she lived there, never once took her trash out. Finally, the loan company. They were calling because, you guessed it, she was behind on her payments. I had no idea where she would go. I didn't really know any of her friends. I called Dad in Kentucky, and guess who answered the phone? I was livid. I wanted my car back now, or I would be calling the police. She starts crying and carrying on until Dad took the phone. He begged me to give her a week to straighten everything out before I did anything. After a week, Dad calls and asks for another week, telling me Kelly is looking for a job and trying to turn her life around. Side note about Dad, he was battling cancer. Also, a few years earlier, we lost our mother to cancer, and our older brother died in a car accident a few months earlier. So that was quite the pushover for Kelly. In the meantime, I'm getting calls from the loan company almost daily. Her job stopped calling. I guess insurance paid them for their loss. Her landlord stopped calling too, assuming he had a hazmat team clean his basement and he no longer rents rooms. But the investigator, I don't know what his title was, called so much that we were on a first-name basis. Let's call him Tom. It's been over 3 months with no contact from Kelly, though I get updates from Dad. The next time Tom, the investigator, called, I would be ready. Tom called a few days later. He averaged 3 calls per week and had so much information for him. I told him where Kelly was working, the address and phone number of the restaurant, and what car she was driving, mine, which still had my tags on it. The only thing I asked was for him not to bother my dad, who was going through very aggressive chemo. Tom was shocked and said he'd never had a family member offer this much info. I laughed and told him he hadn't lived with my sister and her dumpster fire lifestyle. The aftermath. Kelly lost her job. The new restaurant wouldn't tolerate her shenanigans and didn't appreciate the police coming in to talk to them. She blew through literally all the money she stole and had to hide from new people. As for my car, well, we made a trip to see Dad and get the car back. But once we saw it, we were angry. The rear windshield and rear door window were cracked. One of the side mirrors was hanging by the electrical cord, and there was so much garbage in the entire car. Apparently, she had lived in the car for a week. We signed the car over to her before we left. Dad told me it would be the last time he asked me to help Kelly out. Kelly just smirked like she had won the lottery. Before we left, we made sure to call our insurance carrier and remove the car from our coverage. We drove home mad, but feeling like 130 pounds had been lifted from our necks. Wow, yeah, entitled people exist, and they are ridiculous. We see them in choosing beggars and entitled parents and all that. But I think Kelly here is bordering on narcissistic behavior. No, I'm not an expert on mental health or anything like that. What do you guys think? This isn't your run-of-the-mill entitled Karen who wants to talk to the manager. This is somebody who just takes whatever she wants from anybody. She believes she's the center of the universe and apparently doesn't even care or have any kind of shame. What would you call that? If you know what's going on here, please let me know in the comment section. Also, don't forget to tell me if you liked Kelly's story to see if we can continue putting them in the videos. And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to reach our goal of 100,000 subscribers. Also, if you feel like chatting with others from this community, you can always join my Discord server and check out my subreddit. I'll leave the links in the description.